So we are in closed session at 6:45.
I will be ending the webinar now. I'll be ending the webinar now. I'll reopen in one moment, or when
Right, so we are back in open session at 7:07. We have some consent agenda items that would include minutes to the April 3rd, 2023 school board meeting, and we have some general fund vouchers and purchasing card transactions. General fund voucher number 179430 through 179529, and 292209 through 292243, and purchasing card transactions dated 2/21/23 through 3/20/23. And we have some professional staffing recommendations, some co-curricular staffing recommendations that are not necessary for vote. So I would look for a motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
I can do that.
Bruce, thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Kate, thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And that moves us into public comments. And it appears as though we have some esteemed students in-house. Oh, boy. Bushra?
Yeah, you got it.
Very nice.
Arif?
Yep. And actually, before we have Bushra speak, would I be able to ask members of the public attending via Zoom?
You can,
Please.
you can sit down.
Yeah, you can sit down. Yeah, feel free. Just 1 second.
Welcome.
All right, if you'd like to make a public appearance by speaking to the board via Zoom, please utilize the Q&A portion found at the bottom of your Zoom window. In the Q&A, we would ask that you type your name, address, subject of interest, and whether you have discussed this item prior to the meeting with either the district administrator or President Howery. After submitting the information, I would transfer you over to speak to the board. Thank you.
And before you start, I have to do a little read here too, so I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine.
In accordance with School Board Policy 167.3, the McFarland School Board welcomes public comment during regular meetings. The board will accept public comments via individuals who are physically present at the board meeting, who are participating in the board meeting virtually, or who have sent an email to the board president or superintendent in advance of the meeting. Please note the following. Participants are required to register their intention to participate in the noticed public comment portion of the meeting upon their arrival at the meeting, and shall begin their comments by stating their name, address, and group affiliation if and when appropriate. Participants shall address only topics within the legitimate jurisdiction of the board. The board members will not directly respond to comments and may only take action on topics that are on the published agenda. Participants are asked to limit their comments to 5 minutes in duration. Written comments will have a word limit of 250 words. The portion of the meeting for public comments is limited to 60 minutes unless extended by a vote of the board, and participants shall direct all comments to the board and observe reasonable decorum. There.
Okay,
Welcome.
thank you.
Go right ahead.
My name is Bushra Arif. My address is 3486 County Road, MN, McFarland, Wisconsin. And I'm here to talk about the celebration of holidays in the McFarland School District. I'm a 9th grade student here at the McFarland High School. So lights, Christmas trees, giving, and love is what fills the air in everyone's lives during the Christmas holiday. The colorful festival in Hinduism called Holi is filled with dancing, games, and celebrations of happiness. Eid al-Fitr is all about giving, love, prayer, and the sugariest of sweets ever known to mankind. Those of Jewish religion celebrate Rosh Hashanah as a way to spend time with family, light candles, and think of the year ahead of them. The list is endless: Diwali, Ashura, Kwanzaa, Ramadan, Hanukkah, Thongzi, Chinese New Year, and more. While we acknowledge the different holidays that are celebrated by all different kinds of people, what really matters is how we welcome each and every one of these into our school community in order to ensure that everyone feels welcomed and appreciated. Celebrating these holidays as a school is a way of bringing equity and happiness to our student and staff community. Instead, what our district has done is banished all these holidays from the school community. Why can't teachers say Merry Christmas, Eid Mubarak, Happy Halloween, and have a fun Diwali? Why can't they wear red during the Christmas season? Why can't we watch fun holiday movies? Why are we hiding our values and thoughts just to avoid the topic of other religions and practices? Why is it that religion, culture, and being different is something that we strive to cover up? Yes, the approach is thoughtful. Saying Merry Christmas will make those who don't celebrate it feel left out. But why are we banishing the values that more than half of our student population here at this high school hold? We would surely appreciate it more if celebrating our holidays didn't seem like a chore to McFarland High School, or the McFarland School District in general. Here's a different approach. Why don't we watch movies about Christmas and Chinese New Year? If my best friend celebrates Christmas and I celebrate Eid al-Fitr, we shall exchange these holidays of joy instead of covering up our two identities. As someone who does not celebrate Christmas, why am I being pitied because one of my values and beliefs does not align with the vast majority of people at the school? Something that I would value much more than the subtle cover-up of Christian holidays is the representation and acknowledgement of mine. Why is it that my sisters had an AP biology test on the day that my family and many others hold as a day of family, love, and togetherness? Why is it that while we sat at home suppressing ourselves from the celebrations of a religious holiday, they went to McFarland High School to do genetic configurations, figure out the fundamentals of cell biology, and fill out answers about cellular respiration and photosynthesis through tulip plants? No, it's not because school is more important than the beliefs of the students at McFarland High School, but because my religious beliefs hold little to no value to the people who assigned 10 days of winter break for the Christmas holiday. I'm sure that we have all read this little excerpt at least once. The McFarland School District does not discriminate on the basis of race, color, religion, national origin, ancestry, etc. in any of its students' programs and activities. This shouldn't mean that we don't acknowledge any of these things, but that we embrace our differences and celebrate each and every one of our values. Not discriminating does not mean disregarding our differences. Now, this comparison isn't to bash or to put down the school, but instead it is a cry for at least a little bit of acknowledgement. We don't ask you not to celebrate Christmas because of us, to ban the use of the words Merry Christmas from teachers' mouths during school hours, but instead to add the words Ramadan Mubarak, Happy Halloween, Happy Diwali, Happy Chinese New Year, have a blessed Hanukkah, and any other holidays that are celebrated by the wide array of students that attend McFarland High School. So stop covering up our differences, celebrate them, enhance them, and make it known to the students that you were there to make them feel welcome. And if I'm being very honest, that will make an even bigger difference to the student body than what is being implemented right now. Also, I just wanted to put it out there that this isn't something that we just see during the Christmas season or like in December. Just last week, I'm not sure if it was for Easter, but we had Easter Monday off, which I don't know, it's just something to note that we don't classify as like a Christian school, but yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
you're welcome.
And no, as we read before, it's not that we're being rude and not responding to you.
Yeah.
That's how.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's the process.
Yeah.
We appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done. Do we have anything else, Angie?
No,
Any
we have
other?
not had anyone else register.
Okay, in that case, we will move along to our always anticipated highly McFarland High School student report.
All righty. Hey, everybody.
Hi, Joey.
Okay, let me pull up the presentation for this week. All righty. Okie dokie. So lots of fun stuff in the past week or so and this week. Gonna wait for it to load here. It does. Alrighty. Okay. Come on. All right. This past weekend, our McFarland Model United Nations team attended the Northwestern University Model United Nations Conference in Evanston, right outside of Chicago. One of our delegates won a Best Delegate Award, which is the most prestigious award that can be essentially like any delegate can be honored with. So we are super, super proud. And just in general, congratulations to her, Ava Vincent, and amazing job to all delegates who attended. Also in this past week, the MHS held a celebratory assembly, essentially designed to celebrate the accomplishments of students both in clubs and sports. And so some of the sports that were organized, boys swim, girls basketball, and the MHS dance team for all their accomplishments going to state, and for the MHS dance team going to the Citrus Bowl. So that was very awesome. Also, in the past week, last week, there was the Day of Silence. So that past Friday, many MHS students participated in the Day of Silence, which is a day created to spread awareness on the discrimination against LGBTQ plus individuals within the world. So the MHS GSA helped spread awareness for this day among the MHS community by handing out ribbons, as well as supporting students who remained silent throughout the day. They also spray painted Dwayne, the rock outside of the high school, which I'm sure many of you, Dwayne, as in like Dwayne the Rock. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I like
yeah.
that.
All right.
Yeah, it's funny, but yeah, I'm sure you've all seen it driving by MHS. Some other MHS events this past week, we also held the vocal showcase, in which McFarland High School a cappella groups showcased all of their hard work this year with the set list performed last Friday in the MHS PAC. So amazing job to all those who performed. We also this past weekend had track stars set some new school records. So congratulations to Julie Ackley and Rachel Keel for setting new school records for pole vault and long jump. That's super awesome. This week, Bandorama, the very, very awesome event in which all bands across the McFarland High School, or not the McFarland High School, the McFarland School District, so including IMMS and the MHS bands, will be performing all together from 4 to 9 p.m. Wait, not tomorrow. This is a different slide. I apologize. But this is supposed to be, I think, Wednesday this week. I'll get that updated. But yeah, so that's this week. It's on the district calendar. But yeah, it's not Deca Culver's night. I apologize. Also, this coming weekend, the MHS musical theater department is holding their production of Clue. So there are two different casts in this play. There is a vintage villainy cast and a new wave noir cast. They will be performing for 2 different weekends. They will be premiering on April 21st and April 22nd, each of the casts. So it's awesome to go see if you want to. And just amazing job to the cast and the production team for their hard work. It's going to be super awesome, and they've all worked so hard. And that's about it for this week. So thank you. Are there any questions?
Yeah, Joey, that play then is going to be this weekend and next
This
weekend?
is this weekend and next weekend. So it is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of this week, and then the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of next week.
Is that one in the Black Box Theater, or is that in the big
It
theater?
will be in the Black Box Theater.
Okay.
So Joy, you mentioned that there's two different casts for Clue.
Yes, there is. Yes,
Would-
there is.
would
They
you-
wanted to give students, like all students who auditioned, a chance to perform and kind of experiment with like the design of like theater. So
So would you recommend if you can go to one of both of those?
I would recommend going
Yeah,
to
be
both
good.
of those because they're 2 different casts. They represent like different time periods. So there's different elements to both productions. Some replicating like the 50s, and then the other one kind of showcasing elements of the 80s. So very cool.
Interesting.
That would be interesting, I bet.
Yeah, how was the Day of Silence? How did that go?
I personally wasn't there because I was also at the Northwestern University Modern United Nations Conference. However, from what I have heard, it went very well.
Good.
There was good participation.
Yes, I do believe so.
The school was a quieter place than I suspect, eh?
Yeah.
That's good. That's the idea, I guess. Anybody have anything else?
No?
As always, thank you very much, Joey.
Thank you so
We
much.
look forward to seeing you next time.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, guys.
You
Have
bet.
a great meeting.
Craig, can I ask a question? I
Yes.
don't know if this is appropriate, so Aaron, please cut me if I can't. Is it possible to get a copy of her?
Sure.
Okay.
If
I would
you'd
like
be
a
willing
copy.
to share in writing what you're.
Yeah, I mean, you just send it,
That'd be nice.
you can send me an email or whatever. Yeah, I'd like to read it. Thank you.
Of course.
Okay, moving along, I guess I'm up next. Okay. Was fortunate enough to attend another national conference. This year it was held in Orlando, which was very, very nice. Generally speaking, we try to kind of turn this into a vacation. We'll do a couple of days previous and a couple of days after. And I think 85 and sunny was pretty much the call. For
It
the
was here too, Craig, I want you to know.
entire time. You didn't miss. No, I understand that too. Now, in terms of the conference, one thing has always been a given, and I attend these things fairly religiously. I find out that we have a very special district here. I'll sit at tables with a school board president or a superintendent of the school district of Phoenix or Chicago or New York, any of the big cities where they've got hundreds of schools, hundreds of thousands of employees. I can't imagine it. I can't imagine it could ever be the same. And a lot of the emphasis this year was on the DEI part of education moving forward. And it was emphasized. It really was. And I found it incredibly interesting, the approach that large districts with large percentages of students, staff, administration being folks of color, and how they approach this in a much more, it seems like workmanlike, I would say, manner, where they just go about creating policy. And I think sometimes a lot of when I talked about us forming committees that will include community members, staff members, and students, they kind of just go, how do you ever get anything done? And that's their honest-to-God view. They said, we have so many things flying across our desks that if we ever tried to do outreach like that, we literally would never get anything done. And they find that there's, I won't say little to no, but less parental interest in their kids' education than there might be in districts like ours. But I will tell you, DEI is here to stay. And I found down there the same that I have found here over and over and over again is when you talk about DEI, so many people go directly to race. And they don't even consider it in terms of LGBTQ and all of the other underrepresented factions of our society. I generally leave the national conference more optimistic than I did this time. And that hurt me because I'm not that kind of person. You know, it just seemed like all I heard was, we're saying all these things, but nothing's changing. And my input was generally, well, you have to start someplace. And they actually understood the difficulty of a district like McFarland, who has a low percentage of students of color and staff of color, and actually the other underrepresented groups as well, compared to some of these larger districts where it's just an elephant on their back every single day. But again, I sit at these tables and listen to these mini conferences, and to this day, it is still very typical for school boards, administrative teams, and teaching staff to be almost adversarial all of the time. You know, Wisconsin lost the ability collectively bargain, with the public employees, but these other states didn't. And it's still no different than it was back in this, the day when there was pounding on the table and threats of strikes and walkouts and all those sorts of things. So I consider this district very unique and very different in many, many ways. I consider our school board friendly to staff, to students as well, and to community. I mean, we have a commitment to the community to be fiscally responsible, and I think we do that. So again, I walked away thinking I wouldn't trade my position with anybody. I just think we've got a really special school district here and some really, really special students and teachers. So, not to slight the administrators, but they get the kudos all the time. So I think that's all, I come away loving McFarland, but I come away knowing there's a lot of work ahead for everybody to do, but I think we've got a great start with our strategic plan and the way we're going about it. So, that's it for me.
Well, thanks for doing these.
Sure.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Absolutely.
Did anyone talk about recruitment at all? Not
that I attended.
Well, beyond race, too.
Right. Not that I attended.
Okay.
I can go back, however, and look, and I can still draw sessions that I wasn't able to attend. Again, that was a problem that I have every year, that there's, 18 different sessions or seminars that you'd just love to go to. But they had a big keynote speaker every day that takes up the lion's share of the morning, and they don't schedule academic sessions while they're speaking. So I think that's maybe something that I'd maybe take it another day, because I don't think I've ever gotten to see everything that I wanted to. But yes, that was a topic.
Yeah. What about, you talked about folks from the larger school districts were like workmen, like attitude or philosophy, and they just create policies. So they create policies without input from parents?
Well,
community?
without input from parents, for sure.
Okay.
And they do the best they can, but they say that their survey results are in the 20s. So surveying hasn't worked typically for them. And again, thank you very much. So again, it just comes down to, I think, workload, and I think some of these real large districts, school boards, are something less than apolitical. And this is supposed to be a nonpartisan body. Well, I don't get that impression from a lot of them. And people are starting to get, outside people are starting to get involved in school board elections.
Oh, that's been happening throughout the country, yeah.
And that was a topic of discussion as well, but it's relatively new, and I know they didn't want to be throwing accusations around. But it is happening, and there was also discussion on the book banning, or restrictions on books in libraries.
Craig, would you sense that a lot of these folks have lost hope in that we can do what's in the best interest of kids? Because of the bureaucracy, the politics?
I would say no, only because if you go to this thing and over the course of 3 days kind of observe people,
Yeah.
there's a whole lot of people in my demographic. There's, my being on this board 15 years is not chicken feed compared to some of these people. So I think they care deeply. I think the snail's pace that some people feel the DEI stuff is moving at, and they're unsatisfied with that. And, then you've got do you just throw stuff out there against the wall and see what sticks, or do you take a thoughtful, careful approach to the whole thing and try to get it right the first time. And I think and I talked a lot about our strategic plan. I kind of was sheepish about it, that this is really our first one. And more people than not indicated to me that they've never had one.
Did you have copies of our?
No, I didn't, but they seemed relatively surprised. And again, it always comes down to, how do you have the time? And I tell them, it's because we utilize our resources. We got a bunch of smart teachers, and we got a whole school full of smart kids. And I'd like to think we hire administrators that know what's going on, and if we can do this.
Well, let's ask Amy.
Well, I mean, you know what I mean?
Right, I
It's
know.
just,
Yes, I know.
it doesn't have to be, if you do things properly and thoughtfully, you can get a lot more done. And you don't have to have so much rework. Then they talk about, then the school boards turn over. And that's, you're not seeing as many, like we've seen here, there's pretty low activity when election time comes around. And I've always told myself it's because the community's satisfied with the current board, but as opposed to it being apathy. I refuse to let myself think that people are that apathetic that they, refuse to get out here and make the big cash we make,
We do?
Oh, yeah.
And I just have one last
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
Looking out over the landscape of all who were there, how would you rate the gender difference, the race difference, and the age differences?
I don't see, and I'm typically pretty observant. And I'm gonna jump off track here just a second, that the Orlando Civic Center, or Conference Center, is the largest I've ever seen. I mean, it's split into two massive buildings. So you've got the National School Board Convention there, 35,000, something. And also that same weekend, there was something called MegaCon there, which was cosplay and anime and 130,000. And we were sharing the same conference center, so we both had, we were, crossing paths. And I don't know if any of you guys have ever been, I know our beloved Angie have been to these, but the costumes and, the detail, and, they're living a different life that Saturday and Sunday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I'll tell you. And it was, I was uncomfortable, but I wanted pictures bad. With some of these people that were going, so I finally, God, I don't want to be here, but would you mind? And they loved it. They all got into their poses, and they, oh, geez, and it was just an absolute blast. But I never saw, these were the nicest, friendliest, most accommodating. While I was watching, rule following, folks as anything else, and this was a family deal. You'd see 8-year-olds, 28-year-olds, and 58-year-olds out there, doing it all together. And I just thought it was fantastic. And you're gonna have to ask me the question again. Oh, I got it. Age-wise, school boards are older. To my observation, I would say 10% 30-something, 20 or 30% 40-something, and everything, 50, 60, 70. There's a lot of older demographics there. As far as gender, I would say the first one I went to 12, 14 years ago, I would have said it was 70-30 male, and I would say it's much, much closer to 50-50 now. Which is great.
Yes. Yep.
And really, the demographic in terms of race and such is really highly dependent on the size of the school board, it seems like. The big, major metropolitan areas are a very high percentage of people of color. Brown, black, all Asian. But the smaller districts, I would call it a small urban district, as well as the rural, is still a very high percentage white.
That'd be the question I was asking. Were there many rural districts represented? I wouldn't think there would be.
No.
Yeah.
And the difficulty, it seems, is across the board. It's very difficult attracting staff of color when you don't have a significant percentage of students of color. Students are best taught by people that look like them, I believe, but what's the attraction, to go to a district that's 2% as opposed to one that's 40? And that you're just gonna be a better educator probably. So that's a conundrum that we've always faced, and we'll continue to work at it.
Work in progress.
Exactly.
Thanks, Craig.
Yep. School safety written drill evaluation notification and review per Wisconsin State Statute 118.074 CP.
Yes, so you have there in your packet 2 action reports, one from a lockdown situation we had here, of course, which you know about, on the 6th, I believe. And then the following day, we had the opportunity, a student decided to help us enjoy the weather. So we had a fire alarm pulled on a beautiful day
Which building?
here.
Here?
Yep, so we got out, students did a great job getting out, and also did a great job, thankfully, coming back in.
I just have one question.
Yeah.
How much instructional time is lost when we have like that type of fire drill?
I can't speak for how quickly the students transition once inside of a classroom into learning. But I think it lasted 10 minutes probably altogether, but we probably, you probably lose like 20 minutes.
Yep. Just curious.
Time for that, yeah. They're well practiced.
I could say something about that.
Yeah.
In my observation. So I was here in a meeting when the lockdown happened. And
So
it
was I.
Oh, yeah, you were.
That was a lot
we were
longer.
there
That's right,
together.
we were in the
Yeah, that was
same
at Berserk,
meeting. Yes, for
Professional Staff Employee Relations Committee.
Yeah, and it was really impactful, one, to be part of one of those. I mean, as a parent, I hear about them, I read our policies about what we do and what teachers and staff, practice with the kids. But it was really impactful to really feel what that feels like and how scary that can be. And I've always had empathy and recognized that it was scary, but it was scary. And then, to your point, we came back and Jeff did a very good job of keeping us on track, but I think a lot of the rest of the meeting, which was probably like a half hour or something.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I don't know that we really had many people's attention, hard to concentrate, so.
It gave you feelings
Oh, for sure, yes.
that
Yes.
I didn't anticipate, to tell you the truth. And are you through?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just as an aside, I worked for a time shortly after I retired as a greeter at Monona Terrace. And as a city and county facility, they have an active shooter drill there. And I attended the one that we had here a few years back. And compared to that one, this one in Madison, that one, the sound of the guns that they were firing, they were more like a BB gun or something. This one in Madison was the actual reports of AR weapons and all of the latest and great. And I sat there at that front door and watched, I'll bet, 8 to 10 employees running out the front door in tears. I mean, they absolutely fell apart. And even though I was aware that it was going on, they weren't. It was a surprise drill kind of thing. It just scared the bejesus out of me. Just the sheer volume, and it's terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. And I guess that's a necessary evil.
I'll take those comments. Now let's transfer your comment or your feelings onto kids. Think of what they have to do. 4, 5, 6-year-olds, 16, 17-year-olds. And what are we doing? Yeah, we're creating our schools safer environments, for sure. But is there more that we can be doing? I mean, to send these kids off to school and expect them to participate in drills for active shooters. I mean, talking about something that negatively impacts their attitude, learning. Yeah, and I agree, it's a whole different world. But it's a darn shame that our kids and staff and parents have to go through this. But that's just my commentary.
And we have to be really careful when we do training about, creating unnecessary trauma
Yeah.
for kids. And some schools have done some pretty scary things. And we always try to find that line with being prepared, but not causing trauma, especially in our youngest kids. But, I joke a little bit about the fire drill, or the fire evacuation. But those of us that are trained also know that when you hear the fire alarm, you don't just run out of the building anymore. You stop, you listen, what do I hear? You look out the door, because there could be a threat. And you could actually be, your evacuations actually putting you in harm's way. And so our students and our staff, when they did that, because somebody pulled the fire alarm, they had to think about all of those things as well. So that's the unnecessarily, that's the world we live in today.
But I wonder if, especially for the younger kids, when I was employed here, we always had announced our drills and tornado drills.
Yep, we do.
So they knew, so the teachers who were responsible for students with special needs could, not forewarn them, but shape them, or move them even out of the building.
Yep,
And I just hope that we're continuing to do that
yep.
with our kids.
And we do that
Good.
very consistently.
Good, thank you for doing that.
Which was a bit of an adjustment for this one on Friday during the day, because people hadn't gotten advance notice.
Right.
And so it's like, oh, okay, here we go. So I appreciate that.
But when I talk about, they were announced to the kids ahead of time,
Oh, okay.
not
The
to just the
students as well.
faculty.
Yeah.
Because there's no reason to startle them when they're that young if we don't have to.
Yeah, a lot of times we'll have kids actually leave ahead of the announcement, actually get outside before.
Whoever asked about how long does it take, or how much class time, instructional time is lost, I remember very vividly. I mean, you always kind of debriefed with the kids.
Yeah,
I mean, that's some of the best educational. You just sit down and say, okay, does everyone you have to do that.
Mhm.
And that, that probably does take a fair amount of time.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
moving on.
Yes, so naming of facilities, I believe, is next. Is that
Yes.
correct? So, hi. So, Riley. Hi. So,
Oh, this is Riley.
yeah, so Riley is here.
Right. Excellent.
And I think what we're going to do, this is a discussion for the agenda, and I'm going to provide a bit of a context for you, as we talk about kind of Riley's request, which is what brought the discussion forward to the front. But I want to make sure that as we talk about this, that the board has the information they need regarding the process and being really transparent about that. This isn't, the board isn't taking action tonight. So, feel free to comment as much or as little as you like. That's really up to you, but I want to provide information And as President Howry and I talked, we wanted to do this in public to be really transparent about these things and not be dismissive, of course, of a fine student who raised a concern and probably represents many others. We have, the first thing I just want to talk about is we do have a policy, which I have sent to you in advance, but for the public, I will just share some of the highlights of it. It's policy 7250, commemoration of school facilities. So that talks about, naming schools. And the only people that can name a school is the school board. And it requires a vote of the full board, the full membership, all 5 members. And the board has choices when naming a school. They can appoint a committee if they so choose, not required to do so. The preference for that committee will include district residents, students, and staff, and, a nomination process. But again, that's a may, not a requirement. And then in terms of the criteria, our policy currently says a facility may be named or renamed after a geographic location, Wabisa. Intermediate school might be an example of that, or a section of the district it serves. A facility is named or renamed for a person. It shall be an individual who has attained prominence locally, nationally, or in a field of education, science, art, citizenship, political leadership, military achievement, an early pioneer of McFarland, Dane County, or the state of Wisconsin, or an outstanding president of the United States of America. If a facility is named after a living person, the board shall obtain written consent of that person. Parts of the facilities may be named or renamed after individuals using the same criteria for recognition of individuals and may be marked or an appropriate plaque commemorating that individual's contribution. So I just share that with you as that's our current policy that guides our process. And as I tried to make sure you could hear is that there's really a lot of discretion for the board on our process. So we've had, in my time here, to my knowledge, we've had 2 sort of requests to reconsider a name of a school. In addition, we have also renamed a school. In my time here, we had 2 elementary schools that came together as one to Conrad LVM Primary School. So, that process has happened. That happened at a board level. Board made the decision to have the current name. While I wasn't serving in this role, I'm aware of that process, and of course, we have board members who are here for that and can speak to that. But I want to acknowledge the 2 requests for reconsideration that we've had. And I'm going to start with the latter one, and then we'll get to this current one, just to kind of give you some context. So, as many of you know, in July of 2020, we had some former graduates, a former graduate with several current students and former students that signed a letter in the form of an email to Dr. Burdell asking to have the name Indian Mound Middle School reconsidered. There were 27 people on that letter. And at that time, the concern was that the use of the term Indian was offensive. And I was assigned the opportunity to look into that a little bit more. And so the first thing that I really did was to reach out to members of the Ho-Chunk Nation. And it took me a while to get through a few people, but then got to the right people and had a real great conversation with a couple designated leadership members of the Ho-Chunk Nation who said that while the term Indian mounds is outdated, effigy mounds is a term that you hear more often, it's not considered offensive within the community, and that many, members of the nation still use that phrasing, Indian mounds. They said, what is your responsibility is to take care of the mounds and to educate your students about the mounds. And so that turned into the direction that we have focused on, as you know, with the Indigenous Collaborative, and we'll be having a land acknowledgement statement that is voted on by the board on May 3rd with the village board. So that's where we put our efforts. I continue to, every once in a while, no one does formally, but have an informal conversation about, maybe we should change the name. And of course, that is something still the board could take up and explore further. While, a couple people said they didn't find that name offensive, that's something that could be reconsidered and renamed, if that's something you'd like to look into. And then I'll talk about the most current one, which brings Riley here today, which is the idea of Conrad LVM Primary School. Riley shared the information with you, right? So that you read. And I think, one of the things it's important, I think, for the board to recognize is that, history is living, right? We continue to learn things about the past and the people in the past that we didn't know. And so Riley took the time to bring something forward, a concern about Conrad Alvium, and said, is this really how we want our school represented? So, Riley's here today, and if you'd like to say something, you're welcome to, I think it would be fine. I just didn't want to put you too much on the spot. But if you'd like to share something with the board, and then I'll talk to the board about some next steps that we could choose to take.
Yeah, so it started as a project in the class that I'm taking as a sophomore, sociology, taught by Ms. Bazan. And originally my project was about, the idea was find a current issue in Madison that you'd like to take up, or just like one in general that you feel is important. I started with affordable housing, and Ms. Bazan teaches a class on Wednesday nights about diversity, and she had a black speaker come in, and she did a presentation about affordable housing in Madison, and one of the slides had a RRC, which is a racially restrictive covenant, which was a thing that started in the early 50s and carried into the 60s and 70s as it became more unacceptable. And one of the covenants that was prominent in this woman's presentation was one that was agreed to and signed by Conrad Elvium, stating that no person of color should rent, occupy, visit, basically just live in the neighborhoods in Madison that he was living in and that people like him were living in. But and then the next section of that covenant is allowing animals to live there. Like, you can have up to, I believe it was 6 or 8 chickens, 2 pigs, and some other, like, goats and such like that in a residential neighborhood, which I just feel is unacceptable. And then along with that, he was also the president of UW-Madison, and while he was president and serving there, the film board of Madison College presented a project that they had done, a couple of film students have created, that was about finding housing in Madison around the campus based on race, where they would send a person of color up to the door and they would ask for renter's information or about buying the house, and they would be turned down immediately. This was a social experiment, so none of this was set up. And then a couple weeks later, they would send a white person up to the same house, and most of the time they were accepted and either brought in for a tour or just given general information about renting or buying the area. And when the board presented this project, President Elvium said, absolutely not. And they tried to work around it. They tried to say, well, we'll alter voices, we'll blur faces and addresses. It'll be pretty much completely private, but we just want to show that this is what's happening around our campus. And he said, in my good conscience, I can't allow this to be published. And it went to, I believe, a senator of the U.S. up in Washington, D.C. It was brought to a very high court level. And he said that it should be allowed, but the film was never released. Conrad agreed to release the script of the film and all of the words, but he said that he could not release the actual footage, and it never was released, and it got pretty much buried in UW history.
Was that Adam Clayton Powell?
Yeah,
Yeah, he was a representative from Harlem,
yes.
yeah.
Look at you.
And another little bit that I noticed was in the covenant, I think they referred to African Americans as people of Ethiopian descent.
Yeah, they did.
So was that just common back in that time
It
frame, that
was-
any black was gonna be of Ethiopian descent?
Yeah, there was no any idea of being mixed with different ethnicities. If you were a person of color, you were from Ethiopia. At the time, that's what they believed, which is absolutely not true, especially in today's times. But that is what was stated in the covenant.
And so you're asking, to the board, you're encouraging the board to consider renaming the school.
Yes.
Based on that past and what it represents.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And so, here we are, right? So we have this, request, and, a few things I think it's important for the board to know is that there is, in case you don't know, that renaming a school can be a very sensitive situation that creates a lot of feelings in people. That name is beloved to many people, and then other people feel just as passionately in other ways. And so I ask that the board, as you kind of enter into this, that we are considerate of all the perspectives, but that we don't ignore the issue that's been brought towards us. In terms of, precedent, as you may have seen, schools are renamed. That happens regularly. Madison, I believe, has renamed 4 of their schools and is in the process of considering renaming Lindbergh.
I think Conrad Elvium's on the list as well.
It
Conrad,
was.
yeah, so Conrad, so Elvium has not been renamed.
Right.
So that is a school in Madison. It's not the next up, at least for conversation. I'm not aware of any conversations specifically about Elvium Elementary School. Did you find anything? I didn't find anything.
I found that it was up for discussion not super recently, but it is on the list of things to be considered. That a few schools in Madison with the name of Elvium were on the list to be reconsidered.
So they've kind of, that's something certainly I could look into and find out more about. They have other names that I think were a bit more of a priority for reconsideration.
I would like it if you would do that. I'd like to know
Yeah,
what
maybe
makes
they do.
them decide this is one we prioritize and one we feel. I mean, I think Riley, I was really impressed with what you had done, the research. It was just kind of eye-opening. And it's just something that, I think you said it very succinctly, which is there's going to be passion on both sides. And so I think it's something, you don't want to jump into, but I think it's something we need to really consider.
It's certainly thought-provoking. You're only a sophomore, huh?
I am, yes.
Okay.
Good start.
It's not
Gonna be
only,
trouble.
And who's that,
There'll be trouble.
teacher again?
Oh, she's just one of the best, of course.
it's
We
not
agree.
it's not only thought-provoking, but it's a shock.
I
'Cause
found it
was
as a
up there-
shock as
I was up
well.
there for 27 years, and I didn't have that depth of background. But now when I take a look at our new vision, mission, our strategic planning, and the position papers that our own district has created, now's the time to examine this. What's really odd, I guess, when we name buildings or school, whatever, how often do we do any type of background check? Now, I'm sure that's going to be standard procedure in the future, but you certainly have opened up my eyes.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate. Lots of times, the things that you would be checking, you wouldn't even know to ask at the time.
That might be true.
And so you have to, I mean, we need to really know, I don't know, he was chancellor until 1962.
Yeah.
That was what you pointed out. When did he actually die?
62 or 63.
So he did die soon after. Yeah, you know, you just wonder, I mean, were there letters or whatnot where he reconsidered, he said, oh my gosh, it was a mistake. I mean, I view a guy like Thomas Jefferson, who went to his grave swearing he had not fathered any children with his slave. And of course, we have the genetic testing saying, oh, yes, you did. At the same time, you have George Washington, who was bothered enough in his conscience that he did free his slaves. So I think there's a lot more that we have to really look at.
Oh,
But I think
absolutely.
you've really got us looking into this, and I think it's wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's, and as I said at the outset, you know, it's not meant to be a judgment on anyone that was part of that process and naming. You learn things over time, and you have a process to make a decision based on what you know. And so I think, you know, my recommendation would be to the board, if the board is interested in, you know, pursuing this further, would be at a future board meeting, we could, if a board member chose to make a motion, to have a, you know, a committee to start to look into this. It's very important, I think, that if we go down this road, that we do it in a very transparent but comprehensive process. Because, you know, making a change like that, you don't want to be jumping from year to year and changing a name. It will take, if that, you know, let's just say the name ends up getting changed or it doesn't, that process will take an extended period of time.
It could take as much as a year.
And it should.
I was gonna say 2 years.
Yeah, because that, and then if a name is changed, then you have to, you know, rebrand a school.
Oh,
right?
yes.
Which is, you know, I'm not saying that's, you know, I'm not trying to persuade the board, but I just think it's important that you and the public understands that this conversation isn't a decision, and the board, you know, takes this responsibility just very, very seriously to name a school, so.
You've done a great thing, Riley.
Thank you.
This is important.
It is.
And to have, it just makes me proud to have students like you that are willing to, you know, step up, put yourself out, come to a board meeting and sit in front of us and talk. That's not easy. I commend you.
Thank
And
you.
you've done a great thing.
And you came very prepared. You could answer the questions, so good job.
Yeah.
And I applaud your teacher as well. And I want to applaud you for what you just said, because I think you've hit it right on the head, Aaron. Just that we need to have a, you know, a committee where people feel it has been transparent and it's really open. So, yeah, this is good stuff.
So what's the next step?
So the next step would be, at a future agenda, we could have an action item that would be about creating a committee to consider renaming. And it could be, you know, more than one school, it could be one school.
We have a retreat coming up. We could talk about it.
Well, we would need to add that to the agenda.
Right.
And I would,
No, I understand.
yes, and you're the board president. I would recommend just being careful about doing something. The retreat is typically not a public, well-attended public meeting.
True.
We don't do the video for that, because it's a real work session kind of thing. It's less
No, maybe
interesting.
not then.
I'm just saying, just to be thoughtful about that. We couldn't take action.
We need to be thoughtful.
Yeah.
Well, plus the agenda's pretty full
That's true.
for Thursday night.
I think,
true.
I think what's really nice about the timing of this, Riley, is that, one, to Tom's point, it brings to light things that might need reconsideration, which is why it's a great policy name, reconsideration, right? But also as we are really starting to grow our community and as we develop plans for new schools, it really brings it back to the forefront of our minds to, you know, as we consider new buildings and new plans and 15 to 20 years down the road, I think it's just a good thing to be thinking about too, so.
Yeah, I think the other thing is that this policy was passed in 2009, 13, 14 years ago. So maybe, you know, once we do act on moving forward with this, I'd like to take a look at more present policies that Neola might have regarding naming or renaming.
And we
schools.
certainly could make revisions to, you know, the board certainly has the authority to make revisions to the current policy if there's things.
Can I
that
ask a
leads to
question?
mission.
On the second paragraph of this, it said, the last sentence of that second paragraph says, nominations for suggested faculty, facility names, writing. And what does that mean?
Yeah.
Or was that a typo?
That's a typo.
I think it should be in writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wrote it as in writing. When I
That's
rewrote it,
what,
so I
I
caught
was trying to
that.
figure out what that meant. It's writing, what?
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's
so
one of those typos.
If nothing else, Tom, that kind of gets to what you're saying.
Yeah.
We should look at this and say, let's at least, you know, get it.
Well,
right.
I think not only this one, but other sample ones out there.
Oh, yeah, yes, I mean, I think it's,
Yeah, and so I just, because I think we're about wrapping up this topic. So I just want to be clear
Yep.
to the public, because so this is what happens if we're not careful. What happens is we have this great conversation, we show support for an amazing student who brought something that is of interest and concerning to us, to you, as board members, but a decision wasn't made. No one said we're renaming Conrad LVM Primary School tomorrow.
To be perfectly clear,
Yes, yeah, to be perfect clear, there was interest in discussing this further, possibly looking at taking action in the form of creating a process to reconsider naming, but no decision has been made. And we're grateful for you and, you know, for any, certainly student or community member that would bring forward something of this nature to us.
exactly.
thank you, Riley.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You can stick around for the rest of the show, but no promises on how interesting it's going to be.
And congratulations, Angie.
Yeah.
One more thing, I'm breaking protocol, but since Angie's in the room, oh, it's okay. Angie, since you're in the room, I just want to say thank you. I don't think all of the board knows everything that's been going on with prom.
Yeah.
But I just want to say you've been working so hard and thank you for finding a solution when there weren't many solutions to find. So I know it's much appreciated.
For those of you that don't know, we contracted with the Brink Lounge where we had prom last year to have prom again this year, about a year ago. And I received an email last Thursday that they are closing their doors and will not be hosting prom in 3 weeks. So we hit the phones and the emails and just made a lot of phone calls and we were able to work with the Coachman's Gulf Resort, right kind of down near Stoughton. And they've been wonderful to us. They are charging us a very small fee. They're agreeing to host prom for us. They're letting us bring our own food and drinks in so the kids still get the whole experience. They're fantastic. And we have had a huge number of staff members step up, being that it's they do have a building, but they have like sliding doors that open if the weather's nice and so forth. We've had 18 staff members step up just to help chaperone and keep kids safe and such that night. So I think it'll be a great alternative and the kids still get to have the night that they dreamed of. So.
And you know, in terms of driving and such, I saw there was some concern there, but in my
Probably
view,
closer.
we're about equidistant between the Brink and Coachman's, and Coachman's is probably a safer, you know, route to
Absolutely.
take.
You
And
can go
the
the back
parking.
roads or you can take the interstate and it's
Yeah.
right there. I timed it when I drove out there Friday night to see it and it's 16 minutes.
Yeah.
And they have a nice big parking lot so kids don't have to try to find parking like they would have had to do downtown.
Parking's tough at the Brink.
Yeah, so it was sort of a blessing in disguise. The kids have been great and have switched gears
A blessing.
and it will be wonderful. So it'll be great.
Well,
You
thank
did it
you.
again.
Yes.
Thank you. Wow.
Happy to do it.
Yeah, and congratulations, you know, I think Kate might have said that, but Cole Fellowship Award winner right here in our presence. So, and they were stingy this year on the awards, so
Yep.
you're one of very few, so congratulations.
They can't hardly avoid giving one to somebody from McFarland.
Yeah, that's
I was very
I find
fortunate.
that remarkable, since the last 15 years or so, there's a lot less that there, wasn't a nominee.
Yeah.
Oh, I always do this. Sorry.
Thank you very much. I'm very fortunate.
All right.
Thank you.
So, moving on.
Thank you, congratulations.
We have District Administrator's Report. Mr. Tarnitzer?
Yes, that's why I was signing in. Someday you guys will tell me, mute yourself. Okay, so yes, I am here to give you a little bit of updates. I've already completed one of my tasks, which was thank Angie Bazan for quickly finding a location for prom. I mean, think about that, Thursday. Can you imagine?
No.
Oh, my gosh. And then by Friday night. I
And
had a
was it
place.
true the gym was already rented out to somebody else?
The gym is already, well, the cafeteria is already rented out for the Viva prom.
Okay.
So worst case scenario, we would have had 2 proms going at the same time.
Oh, my God.
But we were able to avoid that.
That's completely different. If the kids, if they're any different than, when I was a kid, if I could go somewhere and do something as opposed to doing it in my high school gym.
Yeah.
It's really all about the kids and what they want. And they really
Yeah.
have a special night. And
Yep.
it's more special to get to go somewhere fun.
It is.
Than it is in the gym. So.
I agree.
We were able to make it happen.
I always wonder too, I guess I'm just sort of going ad lib here, but I always wonder if students not only feel more special, but they also maybe a little more responsible when you're off-site at a different location than the place that you go to every day and eat lunch at. and,
True.
you know,
I agree.
Yeah.
Sort of, it's like my house might be messy, but, I clean up after myself at a restaurant, so. All right, some other, just some recognitions. Thank you, I know some board members were able to attend the Mentor Dialogue Dinner for our new teachers and mentors. Great event. President Howard gave a great address to the group. No, it's really, really powerful. I've gotten a lot of positive comments
That's just
about
because I
that.
cry every time.
Well, it's good. Do more of that.
That's what Melissa said. We know it's from the heart.
That's true. That's true, unless you're a great actor. But it was a nice event and a good way to really both recognize our amazing mentors and, kind of congratulate our teachers on, our staff members on a successful first year. That isn't quite over yet, but it's good. That was a wonderful event. Also, just a note, I don't remember seeing this in Joey's presentation, but DECA is off. We have 14 people, I think, 14 high school students that are traveling to Orlando to go to the competition there. They join 18,000 other DECA members from around the world to compete. So just very exciting. And that's a huge undertaking from those advisors to make a trip like that with that many students and then around that many students.
Well, and I think, I'm pretty close to accurate here, is that when the current folks took DECA over, that we were in the neighborhood of 14 members total.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it was very, very low. And I think we're, 150
It's a
maybe?
very strong program, very
Something
successful.
very, very strong. They've done a great job.
They certainly have. Also, I mentioned this on the Tarnitzer's Travels a little bit, but it's testing season, and there's so many people that are involved in making sure that we implement these standardized tests that we get to implement because we're told to, from ACTs and forward testing is what was most recent. And it's one of those things where I think as a district, we're trying to find that balance of helping students do their best, but also not be overly stressed about that, and creating test environments that, you know, are comfortable and accommodate students' needs while also being efficient so that we don't lose too much instruction. So it's a ton of work behind the scenes. So grateful to everyone involved in that.
I have a question about
Yeah.
like the pre-ACTs and the ACTs.
Okay.
I know that it's like mandated, or you have to offer that in school, right?
Mhm.
Is that something that's going to, are universities going to continue to require that? Because I know they're not requiring like testing scores
Yeah.
for this next year. Is
Yeah.
there talk about that going away, or?
I'm being very speculative here, so there's probably some people that are wishing I wouldn't talk when I'm not 100% sure. But my understanding is that it is still somewhat up in the air from the universities about the future of ACT. It seems like they're taking it kind of a short-term look at it right now and seeing how not, people are submitting their ACT scores for colleges if you want to. Not required is how it is. And so what we counsel kids to do is, if it's gonna help you, then submit it. I don't know what the future of that's gonna be. I will say that, you know, the WKCE is the test that we used to take. And so those standardized tests have been part of our state for a long, long time. And what they've done is replaced what the tests are and how they work with new names like Forward and then ACT. And the move, I think, to ACT was somewhat well received by high school and colleges, because it meant that they knew that they were going to be taking this assessment that colleges knew well as part of high school, as opposed to, you know, the WKCE, which is what they used to take in the high schools. So there's some advantage to that, but, you know, haven't heard any rumblings about the state changing ACT as our high school
Okay,
assessment, but if they did, they would replace it with something else.
okay.
It wouldn't be that or nothing. All right, I am going to share, yes, go ahead.
I have one further recognition that I was just made aware of last couple of days,
Oh,
if I might.
yes.
Our athletic director, Paul Ackley, attended a district meeting of all athletic directors recently. And one thing they do at this, there are either 5 or 7 different districts, so there's a healthy number of schools in each one, around 50 or 52 in ours, from what I've understand. And one of the things that they do is they award a Wisconsin Athletic Directors Distinguished Service Award each year. And Paul nominated John Kepsel this year, and he was elected unanimously to be the winner of this Distinguished Service Award. And I want to get it right, so it may appear as though I'm reading this because I'm reading this.
That's okay.
The award is given to people in communities that have gone far above and beyond the call of service for our student athletes. John has been supporting McFarland High School athletes for over 30 years as a teacher, coach, and event worker. The high school athletic department is extremely blessed to have him as a part of it. And I can add as an aside, my wife Sharon and I consider John and his wife Tammy and their kids, Morgan and Aaron, great friends for that entire 30 years, brought together by kids, as so typically happens. My daughter Erin graduated with John's daughter Morgan. So we've been involved with John and his service to the district for that 30-plus years, and I cannot think of a more deserving recipient for an award like that. And as humble as he is, you know, I'm sure that he would never probably want me to do this, but Congratulations, John, and well-deserved. And I hope that we can continue to see you supervising events in the future, because it's a big deal.
It is.
So, anyway,
Well, thanks for sharing that. I wasn't aware of that. They actually met here. Interestingly, that group met right in this room, so.
perfect.
A wonderful recognition for John. All right, so photos. Time to get into the photos. And so a few things going on around the district. When I saw this about CEPS celebrating the final day of gymnastics unit, it made me really nervous at CEPS. You see these pictures and they're just having a blast. But what an undertaking, right, by that physical education staff to say, yeah, we're going to bring in this equipment and we're going to get, and clearly they're very happy to do that. So just a nice recognition that you and I wouldn't see without it. I always appreciate an opportunity to show the staff having fun, and you can see the middle school staff here. They were doing some team building activities, and these were a part of their introduction to this web training that you've been hearing about. This is the new program we'll be implementing next year at the middle school. And thank you so much to everybody involved, including Jamie for her leadership, bringing this program that will be about transitioning our sixth graders into Indian Mound. But the staff having some fun there with a little activity. And knowing that middle school staff, they're pretty competitive too. Speaking of the middle school, it is money unit time in sixth grade, our financial literacy curriculum in action here. And so some students are signed up to be bankers and serve in that role. And here they are, they go to the bank and learn about it firsthand with that money unit simulation. And really, you know, there's lots of fun things that people think about with sixth grade and the money unit. And, you know, I think the thing we also know that is sort of a secret is they're learning. They're learning and they don't realize it because they're having so much fun. They're learning literacy things that I'm still learning, I think.
Well, the money unit kind of got changed, didn't it, over the pandemic period?
Yeah, the format had to be changed. The pandemic brought that out, and it's pretty much what it was originally.
I know it's a big hit.
It is. It is. It's a great opportunity. Students create their own businesses and things. You might have seen this. So our substitute provider, ESS, had a contest and an art contest, and there's different age brackets, and this is our very own sixth grader as a finalist. I haven't heard the results because I think it ended. The votes ended for a top 5 finalists across the country for 1,600 submissions. And as a finalist, if you could take a school field trip anywhere, where would you go? And I would gladly go to where Sierra takes us.
I'd say.
Right there, so hopefully.
Very talented youngster.
Really, yeah,
I'm
really impressive.
That's another thing they have at the national convention is student art. Just mind-blowing how talented some of these kids
So
are.
impressive. This was a great opportunity. I got to catch the tail end of this where we had our county executive, Joe Parisi, speaking to our high school students about energy and climate change, and talking about that, interacting with students, asking questions, talking about the commitments the county's made to this work. And so really thank to the advisors that organized this. We have an outstanding eco club here at the high school, and just so grateful for their leadership, and got a chance to chat with him a little bit afterwards. So appreciate that willingness to meet with our students. A lot of passion. So the 5th, so this was just after our last board meeting, was National Paraprofessional Appreciation Day. And, you know, I think I blabbed about them at the last meeting, but they deserve recognition. We just have such outstanding support staff here. And I think it's one of the things that when new teachers come in, they comment on right away, is the amazing support that we have, and just so student-focused. So, thanks, of course, to them. Also, it was Library Media Specialist Day after our last board meeting, so thank you to them. Great celebration of the work that they do, which just becomes increasingly harder in this current political climate. And technology. Whew.
I tell you, though, they seem ready to take it on.
Yep. They're
I
confident.
really got a great feeling speaking to the ladies that I'm comfortable with them in charge.
And I think that the thing about those particular individuals and the curriculum adoption process that we have is it's well thought out. People don't just make quick decisions and then go, oh, no. It's that work in the front end so that you can feel confident with the curriculum that you have in your school. And it is Volunteer Recognition Week. And, we're coming up to also on Earth Day and Volunteer Day. But we're so grateful for our volunteers. And that's been one of the things that for me has been really exciting to see this year is we feel much more comfortable welcoming volunteers back in, that it's safe to do so. And we really miss them. And it's every day. There's volunteers every day.
I'm just glad we're doing this. I think that is just such a wonderful thing.
Definitely. It is. And then just upcoming dates. So obviously you heard about Bandorama, which is on Wednesday. And we have our retreat on Thursday, which is a silly word, probably. I should stop using it. Because we're not really retreating. We're just meeting in here. And it will be in here this time. And 6 o'clock on Thursday.
Thursday.
And then, of course, I mentioned the 22nd, Earth Day and Community Service Day. The following week, the week of the 23rd is National Library Week. Then we would start the concert season, really kicks in. You heard about the vocal showcase, but we have 4th grade music and art show coming up, 1st grade music program, kindergarten music program, like the concert season starts. So if you have a minute, pop it in on those things, always welcomed. And April 26th is Administrative Professionals Today, so the people that run the schools will be recognized for their great work. April 28th, continuing the tradition of IMMS Real World Day, where we invite community members, parents, and others into the school to talk about their professions to our middle schoolers. So, outstanding program. May becomes National Mental Health Awareness Month and Asian and Pacific Island Heritage Month. We have a school board meeting on May 1st, which is also School Principals Day. Maybe we'll give them the night off. And then May 3rd is our joint meeting with the village, where we will be taking action on the land acknowledgement.
Is that going to be held here?
No, it'll be at the village.
That's at the Village Hall?
Yep.
I saw something, I think I just saw it today. This Friday, IMMS has their energy fair.
Right.
Yep, yeah, so that's a unit that they do, thankfully I know about it, a unit that they do in 7th grade.
Yeah,
7th grade.
right.
And they welcome visitors. It's really neat
Right.
to see kids create their own solutions to energy problems. And if you do have a chance to go, it's really
Yep.
neat because
That's why I brought it up.
they're trained to pitch. Like they are to convince you that you should invest in their renewable source. And then they have simulations and things, so. Yeah, and that last year was the first year of that, and that was really, I will say, credit to Kelly Chadish, who was new to us last year and has brought that unit that fits well with the existing curriculum. Good. Yeah, thank you. That concludes my report, unless you have anything for me.
Anybody? Let's move on to action items. The first being action on McFarland High School Fall Early College Credit and Start College Now program requests. We have 28 students have applied to take college-level courses under the Early College Credit and/or Start College Now programs at Madison College and UW-Madison. A list of all the students and the courses that are requested are included in the packet. You will notice our recommendation is that some of these requests are not approved. This is due to the fact that the same course or similar courses will be offered at MHS next year. And if you're in agreement with these recommendations, the following motion can be made.
Are there limits to how many classes students can take?
No.
No.
The biggest thing that you'll see in there, as I mentioned in the pre-things that I sent you, is that students are denied solely because we provide that course, you know, or something comparable.
Historically, we've approved it as long
Yeah.
as they're not.
But there's one of these kind of unfunded mandates that the state has thrown on us, and it's like, we're paying for this. And it's wonderful in some ways, but holy
It is,
cow.
it is. Is it two?
Okay.
There seems to be more denied courses this time than in the past. Is that because they didn't know that we were offering those courses the following year?
It could be, yeah, I'm sorry, I can't.
I was gonna ask a similar question, because it was often the calculus related
Yeah,
one.
that's what I was gonna
And I
ask
was-
about too, the
That was
calculus.
confusing to me, like,
Yeah.
is there a new class being added?
Yeah, and sometimes there aren't, so sometimes we have classes that, for a variety of reasons, we aren't able to offer one year and can the next. And so often I can, you know, not being a high school administrator, my understanding is that often it is because there's just not the numbers to justify. And so that is part of, you know, the high school has to make really hard decisions about when does providing an opportunity for a small group of students outweigh the expense to the district.
So okay, so these kids apply for these courses, and then when they get denied, is it that they picked these courses on their own, or did they sit down with the counselor and the counselor recommended these courses and then some of them get denied? Like, for example, I'm looking at one that says, the person wanted to take civil drawing, and it says needs to take principles of engineering, which I understand, that's fine, but I'm just curious, how did that student say, no, I just want to take this course, or did the advisor, you know, that student's advisor say, you should sign up for this course, and then it gets denied, and we say, actually, you should take principles of
That's a
engineering?
great question.
From my experience, it tends to be they haven't asked. I think the guidance would know. They would try to recommend that you take the school,
Okay.
yeah. But I can't answer that for sure, but I would
Yeah,
tend to
and
think that's what
Like,
they
this
would.
calculus one is interesting to me, because just from a personal standpoint, I know that there is AP calculus, but it looks like a lot of people wanted to take this calculus and analytic geometry, which I have to assume is different. I mean, everybody knows there's AP calculus offered, so I have to assume there's something
This must be
maybe
unique somehow.
that was unique, but it looks like there were quite a few students that requested it. It looks like they all got denied, and it says calculus BC. I don't know what that means. Will be offered next year, but it would be interesting to see, like, what is the difference? Why are all these students asking to take calculus and analytic geometry? Like, how different is it than AP calculus, and do we need to look at our curriculum if,
Do those
you know.
denials come from the department head?
Those typically come through student services and
It
the
does.
scheduling process and administration. I can certainly check on it. I mean, it's not a hard thing to check on and
Yeah.
find out a little bit more and get that to you.
Yeah. Be good.
Okay, is there any other discussion? I would look for a motion then.
Yeah, I'll move to approve the course approvals and denials for the early college credit and Start College new program requests
Thank
as
you.
recommended by the MHS administration.
Thank you, Tom.
I can second that.
Thank you, Megan. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Moving on, next is action on 2023-24 school board meeting dates. The school board meeting schedule provided to you casts forward the calendar for this year, including meetings on the first and third Monday, other than October. to accommodate the timing of state aid allocations. In January, to avoid the Martin Luther King holiday and having only one meeting in July. Any discussion?
I'm glad that the January Martin Luther King board meeting is no longer there.
Yep.
So I think we met this year on MLK Day, didn't we? Did we have 2 meetings? in January?
2 years ago, maybe,
Yeah.
not last
Okay.
year. Any other discussion? I would look for a motion, if not.
I move to approve the 2023-24 school board meeting dates as proposed.
Thank you, Megan. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Bruce. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next is action on summer 2023 extended contracts. Each summer staff with unique roles are provided compensation to complete summer work in addition to their existing school year contracts. Any questions or discussion?
After summer, is there an evaluation process, Aaron?
Yes.
Following their extended contract?
Yep, so those that receive an extended contract provide the supervising administrator with information about what they did, how they used the hours. And then each, before this meeting, the administrators continue to work with those staff members and see, what are your needs for this year? We haven't, to my knowledge, added increased hours. Certainly this year from last year, but even in previous years. These have been pretty consistent number of hours for people.
I know, and that was my thought also. Is there any thinking of just giving them an extended contract as part of their contract? So we don't have to go through it each spring?
It could be.
It just
and
seems to be pretty consistent from year to year.
It is fairly, what I will say is they do change from person to person, from year to
Okay.
year, and that does change. Like, for example, a student services team in a building, while their total number doesn't typically change, who does which hours often does.
Okay.
So we've kept it this way, it's very responsive. There may be some fiscal
is.
considerations that I'm not aware of with why that wouldn't be done. There's standard teacher contract and adding hours.
Yeah.
That we could explore as well.
No, that's not necessary.
Okay. I'm not opposed.
You answered it.
Any other discussion? If not, I would look for a motion.
I move to approve the summer 2023 extended contracts as recommended by administration.
Thank you, Kate. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Tom, thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And let's see, action on the recommended WEVA Destinations Career Academy and Insight School of Wisconsin Statute 118.408G, student transfers to resident districts. At this time, WEVA Destination Career Academy and Insight School of Wisconsin are requesting approval of the recommended student transfers back to their resident districts due to lack of engagement. Discussion? Comments?
The good news is, for the K-5 students, there's only 3 second graders.
There's
on
less,
this list
yeah.
This time. Now, there's fewer students on the total list, about half as many, but that's a good sign.
Yep.
Yeah, it's sad to see those seniors.
That's unfortunate.
I know, so close.
That's unfortunate. I would look for a motion if there isn't further discussion.
I'll move to approve the WEVA Destinations Career Academy and Insight School of Wisconsin recommended student transfers back to their resident districts due to lack of engagement.
Thank you, Megan. Do I have a second?
I can second that.
Bruce, thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And the last action item of the night is the oath of office.
Yes, congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Was the race close?
I'm gonna hunt down those 52 write-ins, I tell you. You're gonna regret that.
That's sarcasm, public. Quote, unquote.
Okay, all right. So, I, Craig Howry, having been elected or appointed to the office of school board member, but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof, swear to or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability.
Making it official.
Congratulations.
There's a signature.
Congratulations, Greg.
There we go. Thank you very much. Okay, that being taken care of, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
Absolutely.
Tom, thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Kate. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0, and we are adjourned at 8:43 PM. Thank you, everyone. Great job this evening.
It feels a lot later.
It does.